From the womb of the eternal, all creatures and beings take birth, and the Supreme Purusha, as the father, is the generator. Purusha and Prakriti, static and dynamic. The dynamic aspect is called the Prakriti. Static aspect is called the Purusha. So a marriage between Purusha and Prakriti is the outcome of the entire manifestation. Whenever a mortal is born, in whatever womb, God's eternal existence is the real womb from which he is brought into being. Here he means any creation. Whether there is an insect or an animal or a man or a plant or a sapling, God's eternal existence is the real womb from which all these things are brought. This eternal aspect of God is called Mahashakti, the mother of the universe, who is the cause of creation, preservation and destruction. Birth, growth, decay, disease, death. There is an unerring law there now. Right from the inception up to its extinction, there is a law. That is why it's called Mahashakti. Yes, then. She is the Mula Prakriti spoken of in the earlier discourse. This divine Prakriti, or Adi Maya, possesses two aspects, the higher and the lower Prakriti. When the soul is entangled in the meshes of the lower Prakriti, he falls into ignorance and becomes subject to birth and death. The lower Prakriti is made up of the three Gunas, which bind the soul to the sense of individuality or the ego and entangles him in karma. So this lower Prakriti is chaining me, or has chained me. That is how I feel I am an individual. Mataji used to say, Dehabuddhi. I am tied to the Dehabuddhi because of these three Gunas. I cannot even conceive or imagine about the indwelling and all-pervading reality. It will not allow me. The mere mind is fully made manifest because of these three Gunas. This is how we go to the genesis of the Gunas. And then suddenly we will come to know that in our day, early morning, when we get up, during our entire waking hours, and of course, a very great action in the dream, it is this Guna that has its sway on us. The lower Prakriti is made up of the three Gunas, which bind the soul to the sense of individuality or the ego and entangle him in karma. To transcend the lower Prakriti and its Gunas, the way is to surrender oneself to the Mula Prakriti or Vidya Maya of the Lord. Here surrender means a consciousness that all actions are done by the sole power of Mula Prakriti. It is then that the soul attains the supreme status of immortality by complete union and oneness with the all-comprehensive being of the Lord. Hence, a knowledge of the Gunas and their working is essential before the soul could successfully strive to free himself from their clutches. That is why Papa brings one of the most important aspects in spiritual journey, becoming aware of the three Gunas. That is why in the question answer it has been put in the first part itself, and then he made us to go through his own words in Gita Sandesh. We were wondering why should we can pass off to the next page, And he says, no, don't go, don't be in a hurry. You are not here to complete your pages. You are on a deeper study of the spirit in you. The spirit is now covered by these three gunas. Unless you have some picture about the three gunas, you will not be able to free yourself from it. So this is a must. Then again the question comes, because it is a must, during these 18 chapters, the Lord Krishna elaborately discusses about these three gunas, more particularly in 14, 17 and 18, but in many other chapters also. Right from the third. Elaborately have discussed. Actually, we really don't know whether to take up the Bhagavad Gita, these portions of Bhagavad Gita, or to carry on with it. Because that gives us a comprehensive idea about the whole Guna. Normally, we all work, we all talk, we all think, we all eat. What else we have here? Suppose if we take these four, we have a mind, we have an intellect, we have the sense organs, all these things function. Suddenly we come to know that all the functioning of these three, these factors in us, whether I am now talking, whether I am seeing, whether I am walking, whether I am working, whether I am giving, what is it that is there in the background? He puts it in a small word called Shraddha. I don't know how to translate it in English. The Shraddha with which, we give. It is not faith, it also covers faith. And it is whole attention. Mindfully doing, but the dedication, no. When you give, there is a Shraddhaya Deyam. You give with Shraddha. Ashraddhaya Deyam. Don't give without Shraddha. Somebody gets okay, take it, no. So that means it starts with, the whole life activity starts with it. As he said, leaving the chapel now, leaving the umbrella now, every day when we put our clothes for washing, whenever we take the brush, whenever we use the mug, whenever we use the tap, wherever, suddenly we become aware these gunas, gunas. They are exhibiting there. And how is it expressed? Through the Shraddha. Shraddha at all levels. Wow. So even when I cannot make a casual reference now. If I make a casual reference, no. I cannot casually give. I cannot casually do anything, Carelessly doing, no. Now we understand the meaning of what Papa said, in Karma Yoga. Slipshod, clumsy, irregular, half-hearted way. We should not do anything. We should not do anything in a clumsy, irregular, half-hearted way. There should be a whole soul involvement. By the word whole soul involvement, let us not think that it is a physical involvement. There is something more than the spiritual, physical. Can we call it a dedication? Can we call it with love, with care, with concern? All these things. Even Vivekananda, Shraddha, Bhakti, Jnana Yoga, Shraddha is given topmost preference. Shraddha in everything. Hence, the knowledge of gunas and their workings is essential before the soul could successfully strive to free himself from the toucher. When we say we are suffering or that we are happy, it is really he who makes us say so. For he is residing within us. This talk of misery or joy belongs only to his play and action. It is difficult for us to accept. No? He is always above all dualities, above birth and death, above pleasure and pain, above good and bad, above dishonor and honor, above likes and dislikes, above success and failure, above gain and loss, above friend and foe. This Leela is played by him through the aid of his own Maya or Prakriti of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. The Eternal One himself chose to be many. In all these multivarious forms, he pretends to be affected by the pairs of Dandvas or opposites. In fact, the Supreme Lord, who pervades the whole universe, is Trigunatīta or Dandvātīta, is ever pure, untouched, eternal. He is enacting this Leela or world play only to enjoy everlasting bliss as a witness of it. So normally, how do we Papa has to introduce these three gunas. Normal, not applying too much on our head. Equilibrium or poise of calmness is the nature of Sattva guna. Equilibrium or poise of calmness. Movement or activity, the nature of Rajoguna. Inertia or inactivity, the nature of Tamoguna. This is the broad outline. These gunas, overpowering the imperishable Atman in the body, gives rise to the body idea and the resultant ignorance and misery. I think now when we go through Mataji's words in the Divine Mother, we may be able to understand it. Mataji was harping on this. So the Deha Buddhi is the one which prevents me from knowing the presence of the Almighty Lord of the universe inside. So these gunas, overpowering the imperishable Atman in the body, give rise to the body idea and the resultant ignorance and misery. Sattva, being pure and full of light and strength, enables the soul to experience the joy born of the delights of an illumined intellect. We are able to understand about the Guru, about spiritual journey, about the spiritual height, about the goal. All these things are possible because of Sattva intellect. Sattva guna in the intellect. Rajas in the intellect, what does it do? Having the nature of passion and activity makes the soul through inordinate craving, longing for objects of the senses, and so gets attached to action. She will deal with it elaborately later, how to get over this. Now, Tamoguna, the offspring of ignorance, through its dark veil of delusion on the soul, makes him dull, lazy, indifferent. In quest of God, we were able to travel joyously because there were episodes, examples. Here it is purely theory, So how to do that? So one suggestion that came up in our mind is that we now try to observe identify the examples. We all have some background, So we will try to define what is Rajas, what is Tamas, and what is Sattva, based upon our own experience. We have seen people with sattvic nature, We have seen people with rajasic nature. We have seen people with tamasic nature. Mind you, we are labeling them sattvic, rajasic, tamasic because of the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic which is in us. Just like we see ourselves by looking at the mirror, we are trying to see the rajasic nature of others in others, so that the rajasic nature in us is touched and kindled. So if we study through others, we will be able to know our own inner stuff. When somebody, in our own experience, when we shout at somebody, how the other person coolly, calmly hears everything, makes us to think, makes us to realize our mistake, and then how, in a harmonious way, everything got sorted out. Had he been rajasic, he would have stuck to his right and wrong. We were rajasic, we were hope, we were right and there, others are wrong. But this other person, he gave us a patient hearing, made us to think. Like that, we may be able to. We need not think only Mahatmas can do this. No, certainly not. Everybody can. In everybody there are these three. Because suddenly we may quote Papa, the two young boys, they commented, and Papa in a sattvic way handled everything. Immediately the sattvic quality in them got kindled, whether it was a check inspector or the inspector who was handling the Jatadari, in any episode. It is easy, but then it does not become mine. So I must go back to my own life, the life which he gave me, where he has made me to observe all these gunas. So that means we are giving an interpretation to these three gunas. Then it is really, with the clues given through these theories. These are all clues, But I will definitely understand it through examples. The asana when you place, and the asana you take it and put it there.
So the greatness in you that was
She's going alone. She's going alone. Somebody should do. Slipper, So to keep that asana, he said to Sri Swami, you have failed. Remember? Madhuranji kept it and tried to place it without informing, without telling. So it's an eye-opener for us, We all handle so many things, We don't have to just appreciate them and keep quiet. We are being taught how rajasic, how tamasic, how sattvic approach influences every activity in our life. So we request everyone to kindly go back to your own life and find out your own example. Otherwise, this will be purely an intellectual exercise. Whereas the moment I get up in the morning, it should influence me. Everything will be handled in a in a way that we can call it as sattvic, but that will link me to the reality, link me to the God factor. Nothing is irrelevant, nothing is unimportant, nothing is insignificant. When we handle everything haphazardly, that means either we consider it as insignificant or unimportant or not. Gently, lovingly, a touch of love. And doing everything. So let us see a few theories. Sattva, being pure and full of light and strength, enables the soul to experience the joy born of the delights of an illumined intellect. Rajas, having the nature of passion and activity, makes the soul through inordinate craving long for objects and so gets attached to action. Tamoguna, the offspring of ignorance, through his dark veil of delusion on the soul, makes him dull, lazy, indifferent. These gunas work on human nature intermittently and by turns. When the Sattva guna is predominant, it rules, keeping down the Rajo and Tamoguna. When Rajoguna predominates, Sattva, when somebody is shouting, finding fun, you cannot enter in his mind. It is predominating. He is a good man. He has got sattvic qualities, but at that moment it is Rajas.
Swami, sometimes in the morning, I was pushing at you. You give a noise. I am lazy to get up slowly and then keep it. I push it there. No, would you like this? It is I knew it. Knowingly I knew it. And unknowingly.
No, we will not.
Somebody says, will you push like that stool? She will ask, I know. But I can't gently cook. It is not possible for me. I just push it.
See, small things we will try to.
Knowingly we do not.
So when these, for example, morning we have to go at a particular time, 5 minutes more I can sleep. Tamoguna. I got 10 minutes to brush my teeth, have my bath.
Today, Bhargav told me, it is very good. You do know, I am not going to get up because I am going to 4:15. Immediately I remember this Gabo. I got up and went.
So when all these gunas, when one guna is uppermost, the other becomes subservient. Now it's clear, no? We go back to our own life and find out.
Yes, very many came by them.
These gunas work on human nature intermittently and by turns. When the Sattva guna is predominant, it rules keeping down the Rajo and Tamoguna. When Rajoguna predominates, Sattva and Tama are subdued. In the same way, when Tamoguna is ascendant, Sattva and Rajas are overpowered. The gunas, when they sway over the nature of the soul, reveal him their distinctive characteristics also. When the sattvic knowledge prevails in the soul, a light is seen emanating from all parts of the body of such a soul. Some clues, always. The Rajasic man is made out from his restless and passionate nature, full of desires, ever active, utilizing his energy for the satisfaction of greed. The man of Tamoguna carries with him a nature surcharged with darkness, torpor, indifference, attachment. When the sattvic qualities are predominant at the time of dissolution of the body, these are all some theories, we will just go through that and again we will sit. The soul ascends to the pure worlds of sages. If at the time of leaving the body, if I am sattvic, if I am with full of grumblings and complaints, it's a difference. Sattvic, I am working out my karma. So he pure words of sages, attached. While Rajoguna rules at the time of death, he is born again in the environment of action propelled by desire or attachment. When the body is dissolved in a state of Tamoguna, he takes birth amongst the dull and the stupid. Another நம்ம பிரேமம் கான்சியஸா போனோம்.
We are not interested in hearing here. That's why we do. That is the interested means you are in the world. And you don't come here.
So our prayer should be at the time of not only that they should make me to remember you. Just now somebody passed away. We were told till 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Who passed away? He just 2 days back at night he called somebody. He wanted to go to toilet. Came back. He called him 2-3 times. Then passed. 3 days back. Conscious. When the body is dissolved in a state of Tamoguna, we take birth among the dull and the stupid. The stainless peace of Sattva-guna is attained as a fruit of meritorious action. The result of Rajasic action is grief, and of Tamoguna, ignorance. Sattva enlightens the intellect. Rajas creates insatiable desire. Tamas causes delusion and ignorance. Those who have developed Sattva-guna or the harmonious nature ascend upwards. Those who live in Rajoguna remain in the middle state of activity. Those who are controlled by the Tamasic descend downwards, possess the most degrading character. The man of wisdom, who understanding the nature of the gunas, knows that the Atman is beyond the gunas, and for all action the gunas are alone responsible, realizes his divine and immortal nature. Thus when the soul has transcended the 3 gunas, from which all bodies have sprung, and of which they are composed, he attains liberation from birth, death, decay, grief, and ever enjoys the bliss of the eternal. And then, the different types. Food. We will take up one by one. Food. The food that is dear to man of sattvic temperament is such as would increase vitality, power, strength, health, happiness, and peace. This food is tasteful, pure, invigorating, and pleasant. The Rajasic man is fond of the food that is bitter, sour, saltish, hot, pungent, insipid, fiery, which causes pain, sorrow, and disease. Now, the man of Tamoguna holds cold, tasteless, rotten, nauseating, stale, and dusty foods dear to him. The sacrificial karmas or actions performed in the name or the sake of God without expectation of any reward, in accordance with the rule of Shastras, with the firm faith that they ought to be done, are considered to be sattvic or pure. Here the karma is performed in Nishkama spirit as an aid to the realization of God. For Nishkama karma enables the aspirant to achieve the needed purity of mind for attaining divine knowledge. So first about food, now second about action, karma. Sacrifice offered to God desiring for his fruit, and also for showing himself off as a holy man. Ostentation is of Rajasic nature. Here the aspirant's goal is clearly material enjoyment, and so his karma colored with desire. The aspiration of knowing the reality is absent in this sacrifice. Reality carries. The lowest class of sacrifice is Tamoguna, which is performed in opposition to the dictates of the Shastra. without sharing food with others, without remembering the Lord of sacrifice, without giving presents to saintly and pious souls. This sacrifice is made with absolutely no faith, and it relates to the utterly selfish nature of man, who lives and works for his own sake, with a vision self-centered and narrow. He lives only for the sake of his sensual enjoyments, and has no sympathy or concern with the rest of the world. How many days we have to sit and find out, where are we? So in a day, we are, at times, the sattvic develop, at times the rajasic develop, at times the tamasic develop, and we don't know which is having its predominance in us the whole day. We have to watch. This will be reflected even in Ramnam chanting. Whether it is a sattvic chanting, whether it is a rajasic chanting, whether it is a tamasic chanting. In bhajan it will be reflected. Mataji's words yesterday, In speech it is reflected. How much alertness we should develop? Either we have to develop alertness, which is definitely impossible. Because our prakriti is like that, no? What is the other way? Think about it. Kindly enable me to remember you. The other thing is very difficult for me to train. I am in the clutches of these gunas. By myself, it's the toughest job, uphill task. So, the surrender aspect. What is surrender? Just now, Prabhupada explained about surrender. Here, he says, to transcend the lower prakriti and its gunas, the way is to surrender oneself to the Mula Prakriti or Vidya Maya. Here, surrender means a consciousness that all actions are done by the sole power of Mula Prakriti. It is then that the soul attains the supreme status of immortality by complete union and oneness with the all-comprehensive being of the Lord. So every now and then the guna that drags me down, drags me away from him, points out. What is the purpose of knowing all these things? Immediately the alertness comes. I cannot do it. Please, please, please. I am losing my hold. Temptations, frustrations, dispiritedness, hyperactivity, possessiveness. All these things now it's very clear. These are because of the dominance of these three gunas. We can definitely look at ourselves and see for ourselves. In all these things, if you take actions, whether all our actions are self-centered or selfless. Three types of tapas. The tapas of speech consists in not giving pain to others, in always speaking truth, and uttering such words as to give cheer and solace to others. It consists of reading scriptures which deal with devotion to the Lord and describe His glories. Tapas of the mind is contentment, harmony, silence, practice for the control of the mind, and elevating and pure hearts. The threefold tapas in thought, word and deed practiced through the greatest Shraddha, in a spirit of Nishkama, grants the man of Sattva-guna a perfect equanimity and peace, while those who strive to attain this triple purity with a view to obtain reverence, fame and adoration and for the show are of rajatic nature. Same thing we will be doing it. But the object is for nature. So then Siddhantaji used to say, only you know who perhaps. Because the motive behind every action, nobody will be able to know, no? Normally when we lift the telephone, we say, hello, how are you? We don't mean anything, Suppose he says he is not alright, what can you do? And we know that nobody will be perfectly alright throughout. But still, as a matter of, hello, how are you? You are not bothered even to know, hello, how are you? Then we start talking. It doesn't mean anything. There are many usages we use, in correspondence, artificial. We don't mean it as artificial. It automatically comes. Thank you.
Reader also knows. Reader also knows that it's
that is why they also don't answer. When we started coming here and knowing a little more deeper about the functioning of the ashram, which we will come to know only when we involve us. The first job we got was the correspondence. So there, the letter, your loving letter has been received. First time we are hearing. Normally we say we have received your letter to hand, got your letter, something like that. We have never heard your loving letter has been received. We have started seeing. Every time when we write now, love offering, the offering is accepted with joy for the divine service of the beloved Papa. These are the words, In ashram, suppose we go along with these words, it is full of sweetness. Every letter is a loving letter. Especially in ashram does not ask anything from anybody.
Every offer is a love offering. Every receipt is a love offering.
It is only love, clear cut, Everything, because ashram does not initiate anything, God sees to it that he sends out his letter or offering or anything. Then nowadays email, your loving email has been received.
Your Namayava is received with joy and not a grief.
Just imagine, all these words have got significance now.
You will be happy. Joy gives you.
Because we remember the first letter we received. It was thrilling, We happened to know about ashram and we wrote a letter from Chennai, that must have been 64, and in a postcard, We cannot even afford to have a bigger one. A postcard to Anandashram saying that we are desirous of visiting the ashram. Can we come, and if so, how? So immediately the letter came. It was signed by Swami. The first we remember, even after so many years we remember. Your loving letter has been received and read out to Pujya Maharaj. Very happy to know of your desire to visit ashram. It will be a joy to meet you. You are a stranger. You are a stranger, We have never received a letter from anybody. It was also a postcard. And then as soon as you get down at the railway station, taxis are available. If you move to the town, there is a bus stand. Taxi charges 3 rupees. All these details are there. So why we remember, that wording, Sattva in its crystallized Sattva. Crystallized sattvic quality. That is why, you are touched, kindled. A stranger like you, the ashram has no idea about me at all. One among the many, But to him, what a care and concern. Nobody is irrelevant, nobody is unimportant, nobody is insignificant. That is why you use the word loving that. You are loving postcard. It will be a joy to see, And meticulous care and concern is reflected in the instructions given. Now we understand all those. Sattvic, Rajasic. We have received your letter. You can come at any time.
Right.
You can ask somebody. You can ask somebody how to reach here. Anybody will help you. Get down there. So we are finding now the Rajasic and Tamasic way of replying. Sattvic. How it influences, tomorrow, from today onwards, when I handle, I should be very careful, So it is not a theory in spiritual journey. It has something to do with my life here, which will help me at my spiritual journey. Not only that it helps me in my journey towards Him, but it also helps me to live harmoniously, joyfully in this platform. So, threefold tapas in thought, word and deed, practiced through the greatest Shraddha, in a spirit of Nishkama, grants the man of Sattva-guna perfect equanimity and peace. Then, alms given, for example. The alms given to those from whom no return is expected, knowing that it is given to the right person and in the right place, is considered to be sattvic. The alms given expecting a return or wishing for merit or half-heartedly is taken as Rajoguna. Alms given at improper time and place and to undeserving people, accompanied with insult and derision, is held to be a tamasic nature. But all these things, we should not be guided by this. If the God thought comes, nothing is there, When Vinobaji came from the school, he saw a healthy man having his food. So he called the mother and said, in the 18th chapter it is mentioned that it should be given to the deserving patra. Otherwise it is tamasic. So mother instantaneously said, I don't know your shastras. I treat him as God. He says, until such time we were going through all these, theories. We never knew that there is another dimension. It is still ringing in my ears, he says. Aditi Devo Bhava. We never knew about it. So the whole thing gets changed the moment God principle steps in. This we should bear in mind always. Otherwise, we may become academically perfect, technically perfect, but experientially big zero. So merit or demerit, when we come here, when we treat him as God, finished. God gives, God takes back.
They have gone beyond that.
Beyond. Yeah. The old lady who told Unni, when Unni went there to see, when he was inquiring, to meet a petitioner who had sent us a petition for house construction. So Unni was requested to go and find out. So he went there. He had to walk through one lane. Then he saw an old lady sitting in a small hut, thatched hut. And he asked her, do you know? Yeah. Then she also added that he is suffering, he needs. So we went there, met him, he was deserving whatever he has stated, the petition is 100% right. So he was coming back. While coming back, he thought, why this lady is not asking? She is also sitting on a thatched shed. So she asked. And I met him, you are right, he is deserving, we try to do whatever is possible, they are coming from ashram. But you are not asking anything. No, he said, I am perfectly alright. I and my son only, the two people, enough space is there, enough things are there. They need transformation. Even at that time, she did not ask. We are trying to understand what is Sattvic Karma giving, with no expectation in it. Next, the Lord expounds the manner in which sacrifice, alms-giving, austerity to be performed. These must have three essential features underlying them. One is that they should be done as emanating from the eternal reality. Second, they should be done without expecting any reward by those whose aim is liberation. Third, they should be performed with perfect goodwill, having all the purity and sincerity of heart. So these three elevating and ennobling kinds of work have to be performed with perfect Shraddha in the name and for the sake of the Absolute Truth. Whereas any such work done, lacking in faith, without dedicating it to the eternal, will serve no useful purpose for the doer in the earthly life or in the life beyond. Our words, emphatic words. The Lord, in other words, declares that when all the actions of man are performed in a spirit of total surrender to the Supreme Lord, he attains the highest goal of life, namely immortal freedom. Those on the path. So now we are slowly now trying to enter into this. For a quick recap, we will say that right from the moment we get up till we retire to bed, we see, we hear, we talk, we think, we eat, we do. In all these activities, if Sattva predominates, we are right on the spiritual journey. Rajasic, maybe there will be others will be appreciating, we will be justifying ourselves, we are useful, but we will not help beyond that. Tamasic, it will be purely self-centered. Out and out. I am not
I think just now told we are just trying to get God evidently.
There is no other way. So we have got two options now, as what we got from now. Our prayer should be that I know I am entangled with this Sattva Sama. Morning to night, I am in its clutches. And my studying the whole thing and trying to become aware and then limit and controlling it, very difficult. But Lord, you can help me. Because all these things come only when I forget you. So if you give me some clue by which I remember you always, I will not commit any mistake. I will not name it either as Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic. But my life will be a flow in harmony with the godliness. So the best and easiest way is to somehow bring him into the picture. We have been told by our master that it is your Leela. We cannot even appreciate that Leela because when something painful comes, it is difficult for me to accept it as your Leela. But you can bless me that it is you who are doing it. That is the only way I can slowly try to understand it as your Leela. So bring him. Whenever we do Ram Nam, let's just be there. This dimension also be there. Enable me to see you in all the actions which are with the background of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That is why I see the varieties, the changes in everybody. I am separate from everybody because of these gunas. Now I realize. I am attached to somebody, I am not attached to somebody. He is very close to me, the other one is not. He is a stranger to me. This I like, this I don't like. So all these things are there because of my gunas. I am very clear about it now. So he kindly enabled me. Tomorrow also we will try to go through some of the aspects which elaborately are, dealt with 15 to 16 items. We have also tabulated. Mind, word, everything. Again we will go through and see for a while. How? Because to say it is easy to bring our dimension. But to reach to that stage, mind needs some tutoring, some mending, some taming, some disciplining, something should be done. Otherwise the mind will be dominated. We are happy now that at least you have now made us to hear this and appreciate. That gives us some what do you call, solace, some hope. Because to know this, that itself is a grateful thing. So far we have lived our life and we have labeled so many things. Good, bad, positive, negative, all those things. But now you have made us to know. These are all the expressions of these three gunas. And you gave us enough opportunities to distinguish between these three gunas and the plus point of Sattva guna. That also you have made us to now understand. When somebody is shouting and the other man is keeping quiet, he appreciates not the shouting man, no, the other quiet person. What does it mean? Anybody doing any good thing, we are in a position to now enjoy it. That observation gives us joy. Why are we craving towards the life of Mahatmas? Because their life is full of sattvic qualities. They have no person. So all these things show here, we have been blessed with that, no doubt. Your grace is there. But still, I still find I am there where I am. Kindly enable me to infuse this God's presence. Somehow train my equipment, right from the minutest to the grossest. So you may all kindly do a lot of thinking, please. Each one has to do it by himself. Theory will not help, but example only will help. And one's own example, one's observation and one's experience. When I commit something wrong and then I later on correct myself, what a joy I get. When I make up for the deficit I have made, what a joy I get. We shout at somebody when we go apologize. When we wound somebody, when we offend somebody, when we go and apologize, joy we get. Now we remember. Immediately.
Like with one's fault also is there.
I remember so many incidents. So the joy, even today we remember the incident because of the joy, So we are praying to Him to somehow wake us up and become aware so that in all our dealings, we try to associate God with it. whether I am doing Ramnam, whether I am doing Bhajan, whether I am doing Swadhyay, whether I am involved in household work, whether I am involved in professional field activities, whether I am involved in social work, wherever, whatever, from the minutest to the grossest. Let me try to develop this. I am dealing with him. Pujya Swami Satsang used to say, you are dealing with him only. There is only two people now. You and God, that's all. In the form of individuals, in the form of objects, in the form of emotions, in the form of thoughts. So let that come back to us so that we will reverently handle everything.